A completely demented Donald Trump was ranting and raving like a lunatic last night. He was yelling at reporters, calling them stupid. He was slamming his hand on the table. He took to social media at around midnight and finally addressed Thanksgiving, the fact that that was a holiday that took place. But in his message, he called Governor Walz of Minnesota the R word and then threatened to denaturalize American citizens. He then went back into the Mar-a-Lago ballroom where he's staying and where the American taxpayers are subsidizing more vacations and golf for him. And he started dancing and doing the YMCA. We have photos of that. This is deeply disturbing. Let me just tell you what went down. So we know that earlier in the day, earlier evening, Donald Trump held a press conference where he called a female reporter stupid. He said, "Are you stupid? Are you dumb?" Because she asked a question about the fact that former President Biden's administration did a deep dive vetting of anybody who came in from Afghanistan. And in fact, it was Donald Trump who granted the DC shooter asylum this April. So Donald Trump was asked a very basic question about the vetting that maybe Trump did or did not do, because Trump was the one who ultimately granted this individual asylum. Trump couldn't handle the questions. So Trump's like, "Are you stupid? Are you stupid?" Then Donald Trump took to social media, and here is what he posted. We have the message right here. And then the official White House account says, "Read every word," because they want people to read where Donald Trump calls the governor of Minnesota the R word. So let me just show you what Donald Trump posted. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it goes on for pages, but he goes, "A very happy Thanksgiving situation to all of our great American citizens and patriots who have been so nice in allowing our country to be divided, disrupted, carved up, murdered, beaten, mugged, and laughed at along with certain foolish countries throughout the world." So, you're the one who's done that to our country. And then Donald Trump says the foreign population stands at 53 million people. And he says that anyone who's come in from other countries and now lives in the U.S., that our immigrant population, he says they are on welfare from failed nations, from prisons, and from mental institutions. He then goes on to say that he says the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, is, quote, seriously retarded. I hate to use that word, but I'm reading to you what Donald Trump said. He says the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, is seriously retarded. He then goes on to attack Somalian gangs and says that Minnesota has been taken over by Somalia and the Somalian gangs now run Minnesota. He says that Congresswoman Ilhan Omar is probably illegal and she probably came in illegally. Then Donald Trump calls for the denaturalization of migrants, meaning American citizens who are immigrants. Denaturalize, meaning take away their citizenship. He goes, because they are security risks or non-compatible with Western civilization. It's just Donald Trump speaking like a Nazi right here. He then goes on to say, only reverse migration can fully cure this situation. Other than that, happy Thanksgiving to all. That was Trump's Thanksgiving message. Now, this morning, we're learning that Donald Trump is officially recognizing that the eastern Ukrainian land that Putin wants belongs to Putin and Russia. That's what our traitorous, treasonous, Putin boot-looking president, Donald Trump, has done the day after Thanksgiving. Now that he's been, fully exposed as a freaking Russian asset based on the audio recordings that we've seen of Steve Witkoff having Donald Trump launder the Russian plan of surrender to Ukraine. So in my opinion, when you launder the Russian plan of surrender and you try to force it on Ukraine, who should be an ally, yeah, that makes you a Russian asset. Russia. Yeah, right before our eyes, you treasonous traitor. But here's what the Telegraph's reporting. Trump hands Putin Ukraine's occupied territories. I would just say this to the Telegraph. He could say that he's doing that, but this foolish, ranting, raving lunatic doesn't have the right to do that. He can say whatever he wants, but the coalition of the willing, the European allies, Canada, Australia, they're not saying that. Ukraine isn't saying that. So in Donald Trump's demented mind and in the demented mind of Putin, they could believe that, but that ain't what's actually happening. Trump sends envoy to Moscow with plan to recognize Russia's war gains is how they're framing it. So Witkoff, who was on that audio recording, speaking with Dmitriev and speaking with Yuri Yuchkov and speaking with all the Russian leaders, that's who Donald Trump is sending, again, with Kushner to say, Putin, this is yours. Take Ukraine. What a despicable human being this is, right? I mean, can we wake up, people, for a second and realize that there is a treasonous traitor piece of crap in the White House? Just stop treating this individual with any shred of respect. Don't even call him the president, because this individual is a despicable human being. I can't even tell you how angry I am this morning at him and this entire regime. Here's, by the way, what he sends. He sends Jeanine Pirro, the Fox host, right? The wackadoodle Fox host, who's now the top federal prosecutor in Washington, D.C. So she now goes on Fox this morning, the old Fox host who's now running the Justice Department's Washington, D.C. federal office. She goes on and she starts to say, look, the problem with the D.C. shooter was that there was no vetting by Biden. Don't even get me started. We know there was a lot of vetting done by Biden. You know when the issue probably arose? In April 2025, when Donald Trump was focused on arresting or using the FBI and Immigration, Border Patrol, and ICE to go after people in factories and to go after people in restaurants and to go after people on farms and people in Home Depot parking lots and go through peaceful communities, knocking on doors, throwing people into concentration camps. Yeah, while Trump was focused on alligator Alcatrazes and building out these concentration camps across the country and dismantling our counterterrorism unit and putting a 22-year-old landscaper named Thomas Fugate, who was a Trump super fan, who was interning at the Heritage Foundation, this 22-year-old with no experience, to lead our counterintelligence at the FBI. Maybe there's a problem there. I don't know. Call me naive, but perhaps I think that there's the problem. But here's what Jeanine says. Here, play this clip.
And let me say one more thing, and it's not about this case, it's about vetting in general. The nonsense that the left gave us with this Operation Welcome Allies. Look, there was no vetting. If you think there was vetting, I have a bridge to sell you. If you saw the chaos that was going on at that airport in Kabul, in Afghanistan, it was typical of what was going on in the Biden administration.
Then Jeanine Pirro's like, we should be thanking God. Thank God for what Donald Trump has done by allowing more law enforcement partners to work with local and federal policing. Okay, the National Guard, Jeanine, is not law enforcement partners. The National Guard is military, okay? Americans do not want military patrolling the streets. If you want it, why don't you pay law enforcement more? Why don't you increase law enforcement? Why don't you focus on having better relations between federal and local law enforcement rather than actually defunding those partnerships when you attack blue states? Not have military march through our cities. Here, play this clip.
Madam Attorney, what is your message to elected officials like Senator Dick Durbin and Senator Alyssa Slotkin that said that our National Guard was terrorizing American cities, that predicted that it would be the National Guard that would shoot innocent Americans, and many more horrific comments such as that?
You know, it outrages me. And, you know, there's a part of me that thinks that the left is disappointed that the National Guard didn't shoot someone. But the truth is that this left-wing progressive nonsense is nothing more than fueling the flame of division in this country. People should be grateful that the President of the United States has taken crime so seriously in this country that he is bringing in our law enforcement partners so that we can protect the innocent citizens. Look, I am the United States Attorney in the District of Columbia. We had the 4th highest homicide rate in the nation 2 years ago, and the president made the decision to protect the people of the district. Now homicide Homicides are down 60%. Robberies are down 50%. Carjackings are down 74%. And the left wants to complain about it. They should thank God that President Trump is the president, that he cares enough about the people of this country to fight the criminals and protect the innocent people. And
then you have Kelly Loeffler, the billionaire who runs the Small Business Association under the Trump regime. And she's asked a pretty decent question by state regime media known as Fox. And they ask her, they said, well, you know, small businesses are suffering right now. What relief are you going to give to small businesses? What do you think Loeffler says? It's all Biden's fault. Biden did it. Biden. Y'all are the biggest bunch of babies and losers imaginable. Take responsibility. We, the people, take responsibility for our actions. All you're going to do is blame Biden for everything. Not only is it getting old, but you all just look so stupid. And you know, when Trump's like, oh, we're getting laughed at now because of people like Loeffler and Trump and Treasury Secretary Bessent and Howard Lutnick and this whole crew of idiots. Here, play this clip.
But there is, however, a lot of reflections and statistics and anecdotes in these experiences that reflect a downward trend for optimism. For October, for example, the small business index, it dips again. It was 98.2. That was down 0.6% of optimism from September. A lot of these factors include the fact that, first of all, they're still absorbing costs from the prior administration. But my dad and others, up to 32%, had an open job that they could not fill, down 9% on reports as well of positive profit trends, with a lot of these costs being absorbed by the small business owner or oftentimes pushed to the consumer. So what can we look forward to in the way of relief for these small business owners that this administration will be delivering?
That's right, Emily. As I've gone across the country, state after state, talking to small business owners just like your dad, they have struggled under not only the Bidenflation that raised price levels over 20%, for many small business 40 to 50%, but the massive regulatory agenda that the Biden administration heaped on small businesses. President Trump is digging us out of that. And now with the working family tax cuts, we have those small business pass-through deductions permanent, immediate expensing. And then the Democrat shutdown in October impacted millions of small businesses. We know that because at the SBA, $5 billion didn't get delivered to Main Street in the form of lending. That affected 10,000 small businesses, and about 65,000 small businesses didn't have their government contract.
I saw this AI meme circulating with Miss Piggy pointing to Donald Trump saying, quiet, because just think about just this past, week and a half, if you will. Donald Trump yelled at one reporter and said, quiet, Piggy. He then posted a social media message calling a New York Times. So he called one female reporter from Bloomberg Piggy and said, quiet, Piggy. He then did a social media post where he called a New York Times reporter ugly. He said, you're ugly on the inside and the outside. We just saw him call the governor the R word of Minnesota. And then he started attacking the Somalis. And then he calls this reporter who was asking him a legitimate question about what vetting did you do with asylum in April of 2025? And all of the information that we have is that former President Biden did do the vetting, that this specific individual worked with the CIA for 10 years plus. Was there in Kandahar, ran lots of operations, had the highest level of vetting imaginable. So where are you getting your information? And Trump's like, are you stupid? Are you a stupid person? Here, play this clip.
Your DOJ IG just reported this year that there was thorough vetting by DHS and by the FBI of these Afghans who were brought into the U.S. So why do you blame the Biden administration for what this man did?
Are you stupid? Are you a stupid person? Because they came on a plane along with thousands of other people that should.
And then the rest of the time, Donald Trump bragged about at that press conference yesterday, he bragged about golf. And he's like, I would love to play more golf, but I'm beating all these young people in golf. Here, play this clip.
I know a lot about golf. I've won 38 club championships, and I don't get to practice much. I won one last year. I won a club championship at a big club, beating a 27-year-old kid. I said, I'm decades older than you. But I said, the fairway doesn't know how old you are as you walk up the middle and he's in the rough. And I've been a good golfer over the years. When you win, club championships are our majors. You know that. Most people can't play in them. They won't. We're talking about no strokes or anything else. So I'm a very low handicap, and I've won 38 of them legitimately, everyone legitimately.
Just to give you the exact data right here, he spent 83 days on the golf course since returning to office. 27% of the days of his second term, he spent golfing. Imagine if you or I spent 25% of this past year golfing. I hope I'd be a pretty good golfer if I spent 25% of my time golfing. Although Adam Cohen says it's entirely possible he might be confusing the number of golf championships he's won with the number of wars that he has ended. A few more data points I want to share with you right now. We're getting this piece of data from Bloomberg. High coffee prices are here to stay, despite Trump removing some of his coffee tariffs, because once you increase those prices, it's hard to roll back those prices. Although Trump says he may cut income taxes off completely because of tariff income. Well, you want to know what the estimated fiscal year 2026 tariff revenue is? $207 billion. You want to know what the estimated fiscal year 2026 individual income tax revenue is? $2.6 trillion. So Donald Trump claims that we're bringing in trillions of dollars from tariffs. We're not. We're taxing ourselves to the tune of $207 billion. But certainly not replacing the income tax with that. Lastly, I just want to show you this powerful ad about ICE agents, and this is coming from Women's March. Let me just show you this powerful ad right here, and I want to play us out with this. Let's play it.
You will be fought. You will be removed, and you will never return.
The issue of her shows the moment I hated.
Daddy, how's your day?
A mask can't hide you from your neighbors, your children, and God. They'll know. You can walk away before the shame follows you home.
Daddy, how's your day?
There you have it, folks. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million subscribers.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.